Hello everyone, thank you for hearing this video. In this video, we will talk about some facts of Indonesian crude oil and natural gas. So oil and gas are very important for human life because there are so many benefits of oil and gas that can be used in many daily activities. And before we continue, we have to know first what is crude oil and natural gas itself. According to the Indonesian law number 22 of 2001, oil and gas is a vital commodity that plays an important role as a foreign exchange earner for the country, fulfills domestic energy needs, and is the main material for industry. Crude oil is a hydrocarbon that has experienced a very high pressure and temperature in the form of liquid or solid obtained from mining activities. Meanwhile, natural gas is a hydrocarbon experiencing very high pressure and temperature conditions in the form of gas obtained from mining activities. So basically, there are two main purposes of oil and gas which are very useful for human life. The first is for fuel. The fuel that is usually used for household needs, which kerosene and LPG. Besides being used as fuel for stoves in household and industry, petroleum fuel is also widely used as a vehicle fuel, starting from motorcycle, cars, planes, and several vehicles that use internal combustion engines. Some of the products that are usually used are gasoline and diesel oil, where gasoline contains hundreds of different types of hydrocarbons which have more carbon chains. As for the diesel oil, many use it for several types of diesel engine. And the second one is for industrial or raw material. The use of petroleum for industrial activities is very much. It relates to the development of human life because there are many industrial products using petroleum and natural gas. Some of the products produced from petroleum are classified into categories of plastics, synthetic fibers, synthetic rubber, pesticides, detergents, solvents, fertilizer, drugs, and some vitamins also utilize petroleum. So if calculated, almost all products of human life are made based on raw materials from petroleum. So do not be surprised if the use of petroleum is also what helps human life in carrying out many activities, so that the benefits of oil and natural gas are countless. Next is the facts of Indonesian oil, crude oil. So according to the data from Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources that report on March 25, 2022 was recorded that Indonesian oil production was 637,199 barrel oil per day, while the targeted oil production was 702,950 barrel oil per day. Means that there was a decline in production when it compared to the targeted amount of oil produced. According to the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, the Indonesian crude price or ICP in February 2022 was at level of 95.72 US dollar per barrel. The rise of Indonesia crude price was also due to the disruption of global oil supply in the international market due to the geopolitical conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which had an impact on the movement of Indonesian crude oil price. The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources has set the average of ICP for February 2022 at level 95.72 $72 per barrel, or increased about 9.83 from January 2022. And in managing Indonesian crude oil, Indonesia also doing export and import, which according to the data from BPS, from year 2010 until 2020, there are several countries has become Indonesia's crude oil export destination, such as Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and other countries. So according to the data from BPS, the total Indonesian export of crude oil keep declining from year to year. where the data show us that in 2016 Indonesia has already exported its crude oil net weight for about 16.9 million tons of crude oil, which worth of 5.1 billion US dollar of FOB value. While in 2020, Indonesia only export around 4.3 million tons of crude oil or worth only 1.3 billion US dollar of FOB value. The declining of Indonesian export of crude oil caused from some aspects, such as the decreasing of Indonesia crude price, the lack of new crude oil reserve, the COVID-19 pandemic, also the increasing of domestic needs of oil. And in order to satisfy oil needs, Indonesia doing import of oil from several countries, such as from Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, Australia, and so on. It is recorded that in 2021, Indonesia has already imported oil from Saudi Arabia for about 4.42 million tons of oil, which worth of 2.27 billion US dollar. From Nigeria for about 3.92 million tons of oil, which worth of 1.94 billion US dollar, and from Australia for about 1.41 million tons of oil, which worth of 809.3 million US dollar. So next is the facts of Indonesian natural gas. For the gas production on March 25, 2022 was 6,694 million standard cubic feet per day, while the targeted amount of gas production was 5,797 million standard cubic feet per day, which means that is an increase of gas produced compared to the targeted amount of gas produced. Indonesia is also doing export and import of natural gas with several countries, which according to the data from BPS, from 2010 until 2020, there are several countries has become Indonesia's natural gas export destination, such as Japan, South Korea, China, and other countries. According to the data from BPS, until 2018, Indonesia export of crude oil are quite stable, but the number is declining in 2019 to 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which in 2018 Indonesia recorded that the total net weight export of natural gas at level around 23.7 million tons of natural gas, which worth of 10.3 billion US dollar of FOB value, and all the way down to 18.2 tons of worth of 5.3 billion US dollar in 2020. Indonesia is also doing import of gas from several countries, such as United States, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and other countries. So according to the data from BPS, Indonesia's total gas import volume reached 6.24 million tons in 2021, where in 2021 Indonesia import gas from the United States for about 3.78 million tons, and the next largest gas import is from the United Arab Emirates with about 1.23 million tons, followed by Saudi Arabia with a volume of 406.2 thousand tons. Next is the Indonesian upstream oil and gas facts. So, according to the data from SKK Migas, show us the data of Indonesian upstream oil and gas production. The data tell us that Indonesia has about 128 basins, which consist of 20 producing basins, 27 discovery basins, 13 explored basins, and around 68 unexplored basins. Also, Indonesia has approximately 1,000 fields and 30,000 wells. Also, 23,000 national manpower and asset of about 841 trillion rupiah. Also 183 working area or about 750,000 square kilometers of working area. and around 630 platforms, 3 LNG plants, 5 LPG plants, and approximately 20,300 km length of pipeline. And next is the facts of Indonesian oil and gas reserve. So according to the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources, Mr. Arifin Tasrif's statement revealed that Indonesia's oil reserve will be available for up to 9.5 years, while Indonesia's natural gas reserve will last 19.9 years. Also, he said, this is assuming there are no new discoveries in the current production level is 700,000 barrels of oil per day and gas of 6 billion standard cubic feet per day. Natural gas reserves are 62.4 trillion cubic feet, of which 43.6 trillion cubic feet are proven. Furthermore, Mr. Arifin Tasrif emphasized that the calculation of oil and gas reserve was based on 2020 reserve data, and it was assumed that no new oil and gas reserve were discovered. Currently, according to the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, said that national oil reserves are 4.17 billion barrels with proven reserve of 2.44 billion barrels. Meanwhile, data of unproven reserve is 2.44 billion barrels. So after knowing some of the facts of Indonesian crude oil and natural gas, then we might be asking that how about Southeast Asia? Is Southeast Asia's oil and natural gas is enough to satisfy the needs of crude oil and natural gas in the region? So according to the data from Rystad Energy, oil and gas production in Southeast Asia is continues to decline. Throughout 2021, this region will only produce oil and gas for about 4.86 million barrels of oil equivalent per day, down from 5.06 barrel of oil equivalent per day in 2020, where this is the lowest production achievement since 1998, and this year's production level also fell 11.6% compared to the pre-pandemic production level in 2019, which reached 5.5 million barrels of oil equivalent per day. Moreover, Restart Energy projects the decline in production will continue until 2025, where in 2022 production levels are expected to be stable but fall 10% to 4.3 million barrels of oil equivalent per day in 2025. So, that's all about some facts of Indonesian crude oil and natural gas. And thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to leave your thoughts and comment down below. And see ya in the next video.